All right, we're waiting just a few moments for people to get online. Shabbat Shalom to everyone that will be tuning in today. So far, I got one, two. Glad that you could join in, and Laura and I are sad to hear about so many people that are struggling with the current crud that is floating around. Reports are that the hospital is full of that kind of situation of various varieties. And House of David is we got a lot of folks just out and sick. So we are doing the best we can in our circumstances, and glad that you all are joining. We are going to be looking at Bereshit or Genesis chapter number 45 today, the first 9 verses. And people are still joining in, so we'll wait just a moment while folks are joining in and logging on. Let me remind the House of David family that tomorrow at 3 o'clock is the funeral for Eloise Schenkel at Andrew's Funeral Home. Family visitation is at 2. So if you're well and able to attend, I encourage you to do so. If you're not able to attend, please pray for me to have words that will be helpful, healing, and encouraging as we will be conducting the service. All right. Bereshit, Genesis chapter 45, the first 9 verses. It says, And Joseph was unable to restrain himself before all those who stood by him, and he called out, Have everyone go out from me. So no one stood with him while Joseph made himself known to his brothers. And he wept aloud, and the Mitzrites and the house of Pharaoh heard it. Joseph said to his brothers, I am Yosef. The Hebrew there is Ani Yosef. More on that in a few moments. I am Yosef. Is my father still alive? But his brothers were unable to answer him, for they trembled before him. Then Joseph said to his brothers, Please come near me. And when they came near, he said, I am Joseph, your brother, whom you sold into Mitzrayim. And now do not be grieved nor displeased with yourselves because you sold me here. For Elohim sent me before you to preserve life. For 2 years now, the scarcity of food has been in the land, and there are still 5 years in which there is neither plowing nor harvesting. And Elohim sent me before you to preserve for you a remnant in the earth and to give life to you by a great escape. So then, you did not send me here, but Elohim, and he has set me for a father to Pharaoh and master of all of his house, and a ruler throughout all the land of Mitzrayim. Hurry and go up to my father and say to him, Thus says your son Yosef, Elohim has made me master of all Mitzrayim. Come down to me and do not delay. So I see a lot of folks have just joined in, and the chat is on. So if you'd like to mention that you're watching, and if you have a question, I'll try to occasionally glance over and see if there's anything there. I want to talk about a thought that I had pertaining to this. We are Yosef. We are Yosef. Now, he said he is, but it is also true that we are. And there are Upon that realization, a lot of ramifications or consequences or situations that will develop because of that claim. Um, if we go back and we look at just the events that we have been reading about, this is the climactic moment of the latter half of the Torah. There have been a lot of these. We have seen, obviously, the creation of man and the ark being built by Noah and family. We've seen Abraham introduced into the picture and the various events that unfolded in his life. The very, very important scene where Abraham has the pieces laid out one between the other. And I believe that's chapter 15. And the covenant, the blood covenant, is established. We have seen the battle between Esau and Yaakov. We have seen Joseph and his brothers and their struggle. And when we come to this point where Joseph is introduced as the premier of the Hebrew family, it seems like the sun, moon, and stars are all shining their light on this one young teenage kid who is ill-equipped emotionally and or in his maturity to handle the stardom and fame that he imagines is going to be his. He's not a lot different than many folks. You just have this scene that you play out in your mind, how life is going to be and how things are going to go. And he just assumed that he knew what his role in life would be and how it would play out, and that his brothers would circle their tents around his, and that he would be the center of the Hebrew family attention. He had no idea of the refinement and the challenges that he would have to overcome to become a person capable of actually fulfilling the role. Maybe we should focus on that just for a second here, and that is that whatever it is that Yah has called us to, however it is that we imagine that He is going to be using us in whatever future we see, in order for that to take place, there is going to be, I don't like using the word grooming because it is such a negative term in this modern era, but we are being shaped, we're being formed, we're being trained, we are being refined. And that refining process means that letting go of things that we think we can't do without, changing our ideals, changing our opinions, worldviews, perspectives, um, changing our identity at times. And that is letting go of who we've always seen ourselves as being and adopting and agreeing with the identity that Yah sees us. Laura and I were watching a movie about such a line of thought last night. And there is this need, as the movie portrays, of seeing ourselves as He sees us. And I think, and a prayer that was offered up by the main character. If I remember correctly, he said something about, "How do you see me?" That's a dangerous question to some degree. And as I watched that, I was thinking, do I need to pray, "Oh, Father, how do you see me?" Do I really want that answer? Can I handle that answer? Would I be so disillusioned or discouraged by the reality of that answer that my spiritual ego would be so diminished that I'd have to start all over again? So we imagine that we are pretty well. I mean, we're doing the best we can, so we think. How well are we actually doing? What is it that Yah sees when He looks at us? Maybe you should pray about praying about that. I don't know. But we come down, as I said, to this very climactic scene. Joseph has been challenging, correcting, um, being rude to his brothers now for an extended period of time, at least probably for close to 2 years. And they are perturbed by him. They are frustrated with him. They are challenged by him. Literally, they don't know what to do with this mad Mitzrite ruler. It seems to have singled them out for no other reason that he just doesn't like them. And why is he so interested in our family? And why is it that he wants to see our younger brother? And why does he keep asking about our father? You would think they should have gotten a clue. They didn't get a clue. So therefore, we now see that it says in verse 1, Joseph himself is unable to continue this challenging charade that he has put on. He has seen all that he needs to see. Yehuda has just said, how do I go up to my father if the boy, that is Benjamin, is not with me, lest I see the evil that would come upon my father? And he's finally realized my brother Yehuda has actually changed. This is the guy that was willing to sell Joseph, his own brother, for a profit. If we don't kill him, it's at least sell him and just get rid of him. Yehuda is perhaps the one that orchestrated the idea, let's dip his coat in blood and take it to daddy and just tell him some animal killed him. They really didn't care for their own brother that much. And in hindsight, they realized how much they actually didn't care for their father in that regard. So they've been covering up a lie for years, many years. Joseph's unable to restrain himself, and he's trying to do this privately. Yet it says that when he cried out in his anguish, that Pharaoh and the household of Pharaoh, the Mitzrites, they heard him. So he might have tried to stifle this cry, but it didn't work. It came out. And again, more on that in just a few moments. So as the brothers are hearing these Hebrew words come out of the mouth of this Mitzrite Egyptian man, initially it doesn't dawn on them that he's speaking Hebrew, because they are stunned by the actual words themselves. And that is that he is saying to them, Are Yoseph, I am Yoseph. The Midrash, I learned this morning, the Midrash says that when they heard this announcement, that their souls left their bodies. And by a miracle, Yah allowed their souls to be restored to them. And even the one that was sharing that says, we don't know if that's literal or allegorical. Obviously, it's allegorical, but you might say that they were rendered breathless. It took their breath. It was as if they were stunned, and in their amazement and their bewilderment at this, I can hear a collective huge gasp that takes place among them. And they are frozen while their mind tries to figure out, what is this that's taking place in front of me? The reaction of Joseph, or the revelation of that Joseph is who he is, when he reveals himself, and as he explains to them, yes, I'm the same one that was sold into Mitzrayim. He thinks they sold him. They didn't know what happened to him. They put him in the pit, and Midianites and Ishmaelites worked together and got him down to Mitzrayim. He's just been lost. And he says, but nonetheless, it was Yah that sent me here in order to bring about a provision during this scarcity of food. In particular, it was about preserving Israel, and the rest of the world benefited. Now, think about that. What Yah does to preserve Israel, and when I say Israel, yes, we do indeed talk about the sovereign nation and the people that are in the land. They are indeed Israel. But there is also this understanding of Israel at large. Yes, it includes the Jews that are worldwide. But then there is this unknown entity by and large to the rest of the world, indeed to the people of the land by and large, the house of Joseph, or synonymously known as the house of Ephraim, or the house of Israel. Yah orchestrates the world's events for the preservation of his covenant people, and then the rest of the world benefits from that preservation. If Yah were to take out the nation of Iran with their secretive nuclear developments, if they began to possess nuclear weapons, more than one, not only would the land of Israel be under threat, but we have to realize that they have the capability and the technology to turn those and fire them in the direction of America or any other nation that they might choose. If Yah were to, by some means, then take out Iran, or at least their nuclear abilities, not only would he be preserving the people in the land, but it would be a benefit to the rest of the world as well. That's just a simple case in point. Here it is that Joseph is orchestrating the feeding of the world, but it's in preparation for taking care of his own family. I need Yosef. I am Yosef. This revelation enables at least three things that I see right off the top of my head. Number one, it enables restoration. That is, that there is going to be a restoration of the family as a collective and identifiable group. The brothers are now going to see and understand who Joseph is, and Joseph is going to reveal, I know who you are. And we're going to be restored. This divided, fractional issue that has been between us for decades is going to be over. There's no need for us to fight anymore. Secondly, and a very close akin to that, is reunion. It's going to enable not only a recognition of the family participants and heal the wounds and the divides between them, but it's going to also cause the restoration and the reunion of the family as a collective unit in a single place. Go get my father, bring your families down here, and I will provide and care for all of you. So this reunion is necessary to take place in the land of Mitzrayim in order to fulfill, going on again, all the way back to Bereshit or Genesis chapter 15, the prophecy that Yah gave to Abraham, your descendants are going to go down to the land of Egypt, or Mitzrayim, for these hundreds of years, and then I will bring them back as a people here. And I'm going to give them the land from the river of Mitzrayim, the Nile, all the way to the Euphrates. And that's still a prophetic process. We've not gotten there yet. Yah is absolutely committed to his cause. What he has said prophetically that he is going to do, he is absolutely going to do, no matter what the world thinks ought to be done. This reunion then is still going on, and it had to start with this one man standing up, looking at his brothers, perhaps taking off. I remember seeing a movie scene where he took off the Mitzrite headdress that he would have been wearing at that time, set it to the side, and looked at them and spoke Hebrew to them. I am Yoseph. Thirdly, the reconnection to the Father. Joseph hasn't seen his father, if my memory is correct, in 22 years. He is going to lay eyes on his father. His father is going to embrace him. In this Torah portion, they weep on each other's shoulder and neck, and it says for a long time. Well, I mean, they have a lot of catching up to do. Yaakov has thought this son of his to have been dead for a very long time, and now he's alive. How is this even possible? As the story would unfold, and perhaps in family private conversations, the whole thing comes out. But they still function as a family unit because they are reconnected to the Father. Yaakov holds it all together. And again, if my memory is correct and study, Yaakov lives with Joseph for another 17 years. So his time has been restored to him. The revelation of the house of Joseph, those who are the descendants of Joseph, though we try to keep it private, we recognize who we are. We recognize that we are a part of this spiritually identified group. We may or may not have bloodline and DNA to claim. That's not even primary. It is understood that we are part of this spiritually identified group called the house of Joseph. And we try to keep this private because simply most people don't understand. You try to tell family members even, and they look at you with furrowed brows and crossed eyes and don't understand what you're trying to describe. Unless you have become a part of this, there's no really solid perception of what's actually going on. You have to actually get in this water to understand the importance of it. So we try to keep it private, but it's going to be heard. Pharaoh and his house heard it, the cry of Yosef. It was later told to him, Joseph's brothers and their families have come down to us. And it was perceived as a good thing. If we put this in the right perspective, if we live this identity out with joy in our heart, if we can somehow grasp the magnitude of what this identity means and walk in it appropriately, righteously, then it will be perceived as a good thing. That's been our challenge. Now, there was an alternative that Joseph chose not to embrace. He could have chosen to retain his Mitzrite, his Egyptian identity instead. If we think about this, he was standing before his brothers all this time with Egyptian or Mitzrite dress, hairstyle, wig, whatever it might have been. Makeup was common in that time. His language was Mitzrite. He had lived among the Mitzrites long enough that he could possibly have then hidden the Hebrew accent that he was born into and learned to appropriately, fluently speak the Mitzrite language flawlessly. It is possible that he was so Mitzrite that there was absolutely no Hebrew identity about him at all. And is that not how we were raised? That's the way we have appeared. When we ask our friends and companions, why is it that the house of Judah, why is it that they can't understand who we are? Why is it that they don't recognize us? Well, to be honest with you, and one way of saying it, we're not Jewish enough. We are not common to them enough. It is well understood and known that when tourist groups from America go to the land of Israel, they can see you all the way down at the end of the street and know exactly who you are, whether you are with a group or an individual. We just stand out, and it's our mannerism, it's the way we carry ourselves, it's the way we speak. It's just us. They know who we are. But the way that we present ourselves oftentimes hides the heart, unfortunately. And so we encounter such questions among those that we are trying to reveal ourselves to, among our companions, our co-workers, family, neighborhood. We hear a question maybe that says, why can't we just be born again? Why can't we just live a good and clean and righteous appearing life and be done with it? Why do you have to make it so complicated? I just want to identify myself as a believer. I want to go to my congregation, whether that's Saturday or Sunday. I want to wear my witness wear t-shirt. I want to be, truthful and honest to those that I know and just let it go. But no, you want to get into all of this Hebrew focus stuff. Can I not just read my King James or New King James Bible, my New American Standard? Why do I have to have some scriptures that have all those different terms in it? Why are you going to all of this? I don't understand the need to wear a seat. Do you really have to go all that far? And why is all of this, especially this question, why is any and all of this important to me when I'm an American? Or some in our audience may be from some other nation and you identify yourself nationally according to the land that you live. It's not who I am. I don't live in the land of Israel. This is just not important to me. But we're beyond just living our life. We were not born again. We were not redeemed by Messiah to retain our own identity, live our own life, and just be benefited by some hope for our future experience, our after this life experience. You might even say it this way. Your salvation and redemption is not just a heaven and hell question. It's about this life and the here and the now. Yah redeemed us through Yeshua that we become like Yeshua. The goal is to stop living life for ourselves and live it with Him living it through us. Well, I would just rather just change my habits and my language and let it go at that. That's not what Yeshua redeemed us for. Sadly, however, most who claim Him are basically looking for the blessing and the benefit of knowing Him without the demonstration of Him. Somehow we have got to come to a place, we must come to a place where it is Yeshua's words that comes out of our mouths. It is His compassion that is extended to someone. It is His hands that offer the help that someone needs. It's His heart that determines our responses and our emotions and our mindsets. It's a taller order than what we might realize. It is in the next Torah portion, Vayeki, perhaps my favorite of the Torah portions, and that's the one that I was actually born during, that Yaakov extends his hands upon his grandsons Ephraim and Manasseh, and puts the blessing upon them, saying that they're going to be great and that their numbers are going to be astronomical. And that Ephraim in particular is going to become the phrase Meloha Goim. He is going to become the fullness or the completeness of the Goim or the Gentiles. It was understood all the way back then that there was going to be this merging of the house of Ephraim, synonymous with house of Israel, house of Yoseph, with the Goyim, the Gentile nations, and thus it has indeed come to pass. And again, we may or may not be able to trace some kind of DNA bloodline lineage. Again, that's not primary in its importance. The realization is we have been adopted into this identity through Yeshua. That's why it is impossible for us to have been redeemed in a church service or under church teachings about salvation through our Messiah to come to a knowledge of him and have a rebirth take place, and then at some point think that we are Hebraically informed enough that we no longer need Yeshua. And so we end up denying him as the Messiah. Somehow we have become so wise and learned in our process that we figured out we were deceived about all of that, yet we want to continue this renewed, rebirthed identity. You can't have one without the other. Sorry, that's a passionate subject for me. We'll go beyond that. It was during the reign of Rehoboam, the son of Solomon, who reigned from 931 to 913 BCE. Somewhere early on, very early on in his reign, perhaps even in the year 931, he determined that it was time for a major tax increase upon a people that had already been taxed to the hilt. Solomon had conscripted labor from his own people and surrounding nations to the building of all of it, not just the temple, but all of his architectural dreams. And they had been taxed heavily, not only in their time, but in their resources, not only in just coinage and money, but also in their flocks and their herds. If you take time to read through how many animals were slaughtered daily just to supply food for those that he held himself responsible to feed at his table, somebody was bringing a lot of livestock to him daily. Yet Rehoboam said, I'm going to very greatly increase this tax burden. To which the 10 northern tribes, the house of Ephraim, Joseph, house of Israel, said, we're done. We're out of here. House of David, house of Yehuda, you figure it out for yourselves. We're going home. That division took place, some rough calculation here, 2,955 years ago, almost 3,000 years ago, that the houses of Yehuda and Israel have been divided. And not only divided, but warring one against each other. One scholar and researcher says that in a single battle, that there could have been as many as 1 million on one side and 1.5 million on the other. And the house of Israel came out greatly decimated in this enormous battle and war that would have taken place. And they were to militarily never recover. They slaughtered each other. Thankfully, we're not currently slaughtering one another, but it has taken place that the house of Israel has exacted revenge on the house of Yehuda, the Jews, with the pogroms and the Holocaust and the expulsions and the inquisitions. All of that history the Crusades, where Jews by uncountable numbers were taken out. This war, while it may not be involving militaries currently, thank you, Father, it is nonetheless continues a war of words, insults, and political divides. So the house of Joseph, who has been hidden in the land of the Mitzrites, Mitzrayim is the type and the shadow of the world itself. We've been so thoroughly mixed in. I believe it's Amos says that we will lose our identity totally as to who we are, and that has indeed happened. So we dress in the world's dress, and we've accepted their customs and their language and their lifestyle, and we have become Gentiles, goyim. So I don't find it amazing or disconcerting when our brother Yehuda looks at us and doesn't recognize us, because how we present ourselves. We can say, well, I study the Torah. Wonderful. They may say, I don't understand why. It's not for you. So they reason, but they appreciate the fact that at least we have an appreciation for the Torah. Yet we hear Yeshua say in Matthew 15:24, and most of you can quote this verse, I was not sent except to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Yeshua in particular came looking for us to redeem this lost, Gentilized, goyim influenced people. He came looking for us. He died to provide a way back for us. You and I and our generations are important enough that Yeshua gave himself for us, that he came and made the effort of laying down his deity and laying down at least his revealed identity as deity, and presented himself susceptible to humanity for us. Therefore, when we take on his identity, it's reasonable. It's our reasonable act of worship and service. If we go over to Jeremiah 23, and I shared this in 10-minute Torahs this week, but let's read it again. Verse 1 says, woe to the shepherds destroying and scattering the sheep of my pasture. These are Yah's sheep. We are his sheep, declares Yahweh. Therefore, thus said Yahweh Elohim of Israel against the shepherds who feed my people, you've scattered my flock, driven them away, and not tended to them. See, I am punishing you for the evil of your deeds, declares Yahweh. Therefore, I shall gather the remnant of my flock out of all the lands where I have driven them. Now, he's just said that it was the shepherds who scattered them. But Yah was the one who was orchestrating even them scattering us. But he says, I have driven them, and I shall bring them back to their fold, and they shall bear and increase. I shall raise up shepherds over them, and they shall feed them, and they shall fear no more, nor be discouraged, nor shall they be lacking, declares Yahweh. So Yah is identifying these sheep that the shepherds have abused and neglected as those that he himself has driven to the nations and the lands in the earth. Again, that's us. He continues by identifying, and he says, I will raise for David a branch, a samach, a branch of righteousness, and a sovereign shall reign and act wisely, and shall by right ruling in righteousness, or shall do right ruling in righteousness in the earth. In his days, Yehuda shall be saved, and Israel dwell safely. And this is the name whereby he shall be called Yahweh, our righteousness, Yahweh Sekenu. Lest we think that it's all just one synonymous group called Israel that is primarily and maybe even solely identified as the Jews, he differentiates between the two houses, the house of Yehuda and the house of Israel, but he's going to pull them together to where they become one under Yeshua, Yahweh Sekenu. So it will no longer in those days, he says, be said, Yahweh lives who brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Mitzrayim, but Yahweh lives who brought up the seed of the house of Israel out of the land of the north and from all the lands where I have driven them, and they shall dwell on their own soil. Yah is about restoration. And again, it is when Joseph, the house of Joseph, the people of Joseph that exist in this day, accept that identity and recognize who they are to the point that they can say, I am Yosef. We are Yosef. That's who we are. That it will bring about those three things. It will bring about restoration, it will bring about reunion, and it will bring about a reconnecting with the Father. In the book of Ezekiel, this is a parallel prophecy that takes place. In chapter number 34, Yah speaks, maybe I could say more angrily, harshly at least. He says, and the word of Yahweh came to me, saying, Son of man, prophesy against the shepherds of Israel. Prophesy and say to them, thus says the Master Yahweh to the shepherds, woe to the shepherds of Israel who've been feeding themselves. Should not the shepherds feed the flock? You eat the fat, you put on the wool, you slaughter the fatlings, you do not feed the flock. You've not strengthened the weak, nor have you healed the sick, nor bound up the broken, nor brought back the straying, nor sought out what was lost, but you have ruled them with might and harshness, and they were scattered because there was no shepherd, and they became food for all the beasts of the field when they were scattered. My sheep wandered through all the mountains and on every high hill, and my sheep were scattered all over the face of the earth, that is, among the nations, and no one was seeking for them. That's why Yeshua came, to seek for those that were lost and were scattered. There's more to this entire experience that we are walking in than just I'm saved, brother, and I'm going to my discipleship class and I'm attending worship services. I'm paying my tithes, and well, I'm just trying to live a good life. There's much more to it than that. That is the traditional Americanized version of what the entirety of Scripture is all about. That's like living this out at a first grade level. I know the alphabet and I can count to 10 and I can write my name. What else do you want? And Yah is saying there's graduate courses and all that I have written if you're willing to seek me for them. But I can function with just what I know. Yes, you can. And you may be a part of the kingdom with just what you know. But we're not going to powerfully impact and influence the world and the community that is around us. And we're not going to raise up mighty ones in the earth who leave deep footprints in the earth out of our own family members and companions by walking an overly simplified existence of righteousness in the earth. Yah is calling upon a people who will stand up with a recognized and understood identity. I am, we are Yosef. And we are here to restore and to reconcile. We are here to reunite. We're here to bring about a large reconnection of that which has been previously divided and destructive to one another, a vital mutual recognition and restoration to the Father. Our goal is not just to grow a local group. Our goal is not just to put on a website and offer our insights. Our goal must be we have to foster the reunion and restoration of all things Acts 3:19 through 21 describes. We had to be much more involved than what we have been to this place. So the house of Israel, they accept the deity of Yeshua. They recognize who Yeshua is, and that has been a problem. It is this problem, this recognition of who Yeshua is, that has divided us primarily from the house of Yehuda. We enter into these discussions perhaps when we have an opportunity with a Jewish friend or acquaintance, and we sit back with a smug confidence that says, I got it all figured out. You're the one that just needs to come to the revelation. And my conversations along these lines with others, it has been an insightful thing to realize this is the way we believe the Messiah will appear, what he will do, how he will live, and even what his life expectancy and ultimate death will look like. And I have to admit that those concepts as to the role of Messiah are completely foreign to anything that I've been exposed to before. And I can see from their vantage point how that they would consider that line of thought. I don't agree with it, but I can understand how they would see that. Once you come to a place where Yeshua is not the very Son of the Most High, Yah indwelling in a human being, once you come to that understanding, everything changes. The whole eternal picture of things change. I can see it. I think I can. I believe I do. But yet we have to also understand that somewhere between what our brother Yehuda sees and what we, the house of Yoseph, Israel, sees is the reality. To sit back and say, we've got it all figured out. We know exactly how the last days unfold. And once the kingdom comes, we got the grand view of all things as they will unfold. I don't think at some points that we may have a very good clue. What the last days have in their totality and expression, we may be in for a few surprises. We may be expecting things to take a right turn and they go left. We have to be prepared for that. And it is not that Yeshua is deceptive to us, not at all. It's just that we don't know necessarily all that we think we know. That's why it's important that more than doctrine, more than what we have held on to and been afraid to be challenged on, that we know Yeshua. When Yeshua stands up and says, I need Yeshua, I am Yeshua. Seek him, seek his face, seek his revelation. That's the most vital and most important thing. And it could be that as Yoseph stood up saying, I am Yoseph, and unsettling his brothers, if Yeshua were to stand up and more clearly reveal himself, we might be just as breathless and just as stunned and overwhelmed. But it would foster a greater degree of reunion and reconnection and revelation and restoration and all of the things that we're looking for. It is said, as we understand from our reading today, Yehuda has made this statement, how can I go back up to my father if the boy's not with me? Yehuda has a love for the Father. And we should not doubt that. Yes, I know that many, a major portion of the Jews who live in the land are secular and their life expression. But for those that are seeking to be observant, they have a love for the Father. They worship the Father. They yearn for him. And they're praying, send to us Messiah and send him to us quickly. It is the hidden identity of Joseph, again, that is a problem. Joseph being hidden from them. Yeshua being hidden from them. It is an issue. So it is important then that we who are the house of Joseph really know who we are. So I have to ask you, do you know who you are? I mean, functionally, not just conceptually, but functionally, do you know who you are? We can have the concept, we can have the doctrine down, but actually putting it into practice and demonstrating the reality of this identity is what's important. In Matthew chapter 5, if you want to go there with me, I can get there myself. In Matthew 5, the Sermon on the Mount, Yeshua says in verse number 13, you are the salt of the earth, but if the salt has become tasteless, how shall it be seasoned? For it is no longer of any use but to be thrown out and to be trodden by men. You are the light of the world. It's impossible for a city to be hidden on a mountain, nor do they light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a lampstand, and it shines to all those in the house. Let your light so shine before men that they see your good works and praise your Father who is in the heavens. Yeshua gives us two identities, two functional identities. One is that we are salt. I'm someone who really, I'm not going to stand in line at the dessert table looking for something sweet. An occasional piece of something goes a long, long ways for me. My tastes tend to go toward the salty. And so I'm looking for a bag of potato chips. I want something flavorful because of salt. However, when the doc says you're salt sensitive and you need to eliminate salt out of your diet, everything tasted bland. I lost flavor in my food. And we now buy the low sodium potato chips most often. They're okay, but they're not what I'm looking for primarily. Why? Without the flavor that you're looking for, things just don't taste the same. Yeshua says you are to be salt. You're not to be quinine. That is, we're not to be bitter. If the world is spiritually looking for a salty flavor and we're presenting something else, if we're bitter, your bitterness is not going to influence anyone toward righteousness. And there's a lot of things in life, a lot of experiences in our lives that will cause us to be bitter. We need to recognize those and get rid of them, deal with them, be healed of them, be delivered from them. But primarily what the world is experiencing from the people in the Most High is not salt nor bitterness, but sweetness. It has been often said we're sugarcoating things, and we're trying to appeal by sweetness. Well, let's just love everybody. Let's just accept any and everybody with any and everything in their lives and ask no questions. Just love them, and that's all that's going to be needed to fix them. No, Yeshua says you're salt. Salt enhances flavor. Salt purifies. Salt can preserve. Salt is linked to the covenant. These are the kinds of qualities that Yeshua is asking out of us, to be functional as salt in the earth. The other thing about salt is if you eat enough of it, you get thirsty. In order for someone to learn to have a sweet disposition, they need to be filled with the Spirit. That is, that they need the water of life in them. But they're not going to desire that unless they have a mouthful of salt first. They need the salt of the word, the salt of the covenant, the salt of our righteous lifestyle in order for them to be desirous to drink from the water that will be the infilling of the Spirit. It all goes hand in hand. And then he said, you are to be light. Obviously, basically, primarily, light illuminates darkness. It doesn't take a lot of light, but the brighter the light, the less the darkness, the greater the illumination, the greater the perspective of being able to see is available to us. If you are on a trip and unfortunately, God forbid, your vehicle breaks down, you're out in the middle of nowhere. It's dark. There are no street lamps. There are no road lights. There are no headlights anywhere around. And you're stuck on the side of the road with flat tire, broken vehicles by some means. If you look around and you realize we can't stay here, we got to figure out where we're going to go. What do I do? Seeing a light in the distance, that's where your eyes gravitate to. And you are going to instinctively seek to move toward the light. Why? Where there is light, there should be help. Perhaps there are people. And with people, there will be resources. There could be a phone that we can utilize. We can find our way. You're in the dark. You don't have a flashlight. You're reaching for your phone these days that have the light on them. What an amazing invention! That flashlights are now oftentimes being replaced by the light on your phone. We're looking to be able to see. Looking to see. People that are in darkness instinctively are going to look for a resource of light. Isaiah chapter 60 describes us as being covered with the glory of the Most High, and that those who are in the gross darkness will leave that darkness and come to the brightness of our shining. But as Yeshua says, if our light is hidden, it doesn't do anyone any good. Functionally, we have got to find a way to live our lives illuminating that which is around us. That doesn't mean necessarily that we're casting our opinion and perspective on every conversation, but rather we're recognizing it's this book that is filled with light, and the one who is revealed in the book is the light, and the light that we have is not our own light, but is the light of Yeshua that dwells within us. So let Yeshua guide our words and our perspective and our responses. And the book of John, chapter 15. In verse number 15, Yeshua identifies us this way. No longer do I call you servants, for a servant does not know what his master is doing, but I have called you friends. For all teachings which I have heard from my Father, I have made known to you. He said, you did not choose me, but I chose you and appointed you that you should go and bear fruit. He says that we're friends. He says that we are fruit bearers. And that your fruit should remain, so that whatever you ask the Father in my name, he might give you. These words I command you so that you love one another. We are loving members together. We are the friends of Yeshua. We are fruit bearers of Yeshua. We are sharers of the love of Yeshua among ourselves. If the world hates you, you know that it hated me before it hated you. We are those the world hates. That's an uncomfortable thought. If you were of the world would love its own, but you are not of the world, but I chose you out of the world. For this reason, the world hates you. Yeshua is identifying us. We're his friends. We are the bearers of his fruit, his likeness, his qualities, his lifestyle, his heart. We are sharers of his love among ourselves. We are those that the world misunderstands, hates, rejects, but we're also those who are chosen out of the world. We don't belong here anymore, not in and of this world system. Finally, he says in the book of Acts, chapter number 1, verse 8, he says, you shall receive the power of the set apart Spirit which has come upon you, and you shall be my witnesses. We are witnesses of Yeshua. Who are these witnesses? Ones who know and understand what Yeshua has said and done and is saying and is doing and will say and will do. We are witnesses of even the future, because the future has been revealed to us. Who are these people? Are Yoseph. We are the house of Yoseph. And it is the recognition of this identity, the recognition of this quality, this proclamation, correct and right in its methodology proclamation, that will bring about the restoration of all things. I am not advocating that you buy a ticket, fly to Israel, and go running around on the streets of Jerusalem telling everybody that you're Yoseph, you're the house of Yoseph. That's ill-conceived and out of time. Matter of fact, you shouldn't have to say it to someone for them to see it in you. If you will reveal Yeshua, you will reveal yourself as the lost sheep that he has come and redeemed. We need to know, and we need to demonstrate correctly to the world that they may know. And once they understand and begin to see, then we can teach them how to walk it out. Not an easy, simplified process, but then again, we're called to walk higher than that. It's more to it than what we have first believed. Thank you, Father. Thank you for the privilege and the opportunity to be the house of Yoseph, to be the one revealed to his brothers that will bring about reconciliation and restoration. Thank you for the privilege of taking on the identity of Yeshua, being light and salt in the earth, being witnesses in the earth. Amen. Thank you for your time. It's been about an hour here. I trust that you who are resting at home are recuperating quickly. We're praying for your healing. We're praying for your quick recovery from the crud, as we call it, that is going around. And we invite you to continue to pray for the Shankle family that will be having funeral services tomorrow. And may Yah bring us back together again next Shabbat at House of David. We very, very much look forward to that. Amen. Let's conclude with the Aaronic benediction and the Shema together. Join with me, if you will. Shema, starting got too early here. Yivarekaka Yahuwah vayishmareka. Ya'er Yahweh panav ileka v'koneka. Isa Yahweh panav ileka v'yasim leka shalom. And may Yahweh bless you and keep you. May Yahweh make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May Yahweh lift up his countenance upon you that he may grant unto you shalom. Now let's sing the Shema. Shema Israel, Yahweh Eloheinu, Yahweh Echad, Baruch Shem Kavod, Malkuto, Le'elam Va'ed. Amen. Shabbat Shalom. We hope to see you again next week. Thank you so much for joining in. This will be posted on YouTube, and invite others, if you will, to watch, those that have not been able to join live. We look forward to seeing you again. Shabbat Shalom.